I'm more or less ready to start. It's 29. Shall we wait for others to turn up, or we can start now? Okay?
I think we can start now, Faser.
Okay. So, do you remember where we finished? We finished discussing the process of enlightenment from the end to the beginning. And now we are getting ready for discussing the process of enlightenment from beginning to the end. So this process of enlightenment from the end to the beginning explains also whenever there is a process in our mind or in nature or anywhere, because as far as Buddhism is concerned, everything we experience is a process. And the process has a beginning. From beginning, there is duration. From duration, there is impermanence. And from impermanence, there is cessation. So 4 stages of every process we experience. This is true to the process of mind. The mind functions also, it arises, it stays for a while, and then impermanence and goes back. We have explained, like you throw a stone to the sky, it will go up as long as the energy is in the stone, compelling the stone. When the energy is no more, so naturally it will fall down. And when it falls down, it comes back to the beginning. So now we have been explaining the process of enlightenment from the end, because we start from the end. So instead of starting from the beginning, we start from the end, because we are not yet Buddhas, we are not yet Arahats, we are not yet realized Bodhisattvas. So we start from the end as the Pritak Jana, that means as a separate being, believing that we are different from the whole. And when we different from the whole, we, so to say, we don't understand the true enlightenment, but we understand that when we continue producing thoughts that are harming us and harming other beings, we have some kind of enlightened nature, which is called Pen Jue, the original enlightenment, which prevents us from continuing to engage in evil, in killing, stealing, lying, and all the situations related to this kind of evil thinking. So evil thinking has, in Buddhism, the unwholesome roots. Unwholesome roots is greed, anger, and ignorance. Due to these unwholesome roots, we are bound to suffer if we understand. And because we understand, we have the original enlightenment. When we have the original enlightenment, we understand that if we engage in unwholesome routes of action, we're going to suffer. So starts the process of initial enlightenment, or process of becoming enlightened, which is called 识觉. 识觉 means the literally initial enlightenment, but it means because we are always in the, so to say, in not yet Buddhas, so it's always initial. So we translate this initial enlightenment as a process of becoming enlightened. Process of becoming enlightened are these 4 stages of every process, but from the end. First, we know the unwholesome roots of action harm us, so we don't continue in thinking that harms us and others. Then, when we have realized faith in Mahayana, first in the faith in one mind, or when we have realized the nirvana in the sense as something different from samsara, which is the realization of the disciples. So we have what this scripture calls the xiangshi jue. It means looking like enlightenment, but it is not a real enlightenment because just like the Lotus Sutra says, it is a skillful means of Buddha for enlightenment. This treatise being a Mahayana, and Mahayana is related to Lotus Sutra. Maybe if Ashwagosha is the author of this treatise, which is a question, maybe already in his time, this Lotus Sutra being one of the earliest sutras explaining the Bodhisattva path, the path how to become the to attain the great nirvana, not the small nirvana, as opposed to samsara. So probably it was already available to Ashwagosha. So he also considers this enlightenment of the disciple, first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage, even the arahat, is still, so to say, only skillful means to become a Buddha, the perfect Buddha, realizing the not the dualistic notion of realization. We have to understand this is also just a concept. We should not cling to concept. We should understand concepts are there to explain the practice. The Bodhisattva practice is non-dualistic. The disciple practice, it does not mean that all disciples have dualistic view, but dualistic practice is to abandon samsara and to attain something beyond samsara. This beyond samsara, according to the Pragya Paramita Sutras, the Sutras of Perfection of Wisdom, is, so to say, also based on great wisdom. Because great wisdom brings us to the, ultimately, to the non-dualistic vision. So even Arahat, according to the Pragya Paramita Sutras, he also needs the great wisdom to understand that the ultimate reality actually is one. Anyway, from the point of view of concept, as long as we realize nirvana as something opposed to samsara, this is seemingly enlightenment, but it is not yet real enlightenment. When we practice the path of the disciples, path of when we practice the path of the bodhisattva, path of the bodhisattvas, just like the path of the arahat, has to go through preliminary stage. And preliminary stage for the Shravaka are these stages of wisdom, Vipassana wisdom, before direct realization of nirvana, before becoming the stream enterer. We have to go through these stages of Vipassana as described in Visuddhimagga or Vimuttimagga. We have to go through Jnata Pariñña, the understanding of the objects of wisdom, then understanding Nama Rupa, then understanding their impermanence. And finally, we can get the realization of that which is beyond impermanence. In the practice of Bodhisattva, so explained in the Bodhisattva Abhidharma, we have to practice the 10 kinds of faith. They include already the similar practices. The Shravaka has to go through the mindfulness, the awareness, the right effort, the Bahushrutata, the depths of scholarship, of understanding from hearing, from contemplation, and so on. But he contemplates on the base of the faith. On the base of the faith, he then practices mindfulness, practices awareness, and that is different because his aim is not to abandon samsara. He gives rise to bodhicitta. Bodhicitta means the mind of perfect enlightenment, of non-dualistic enlightenment. So then, after realizing the faith, which is compared to the realization of the Shrotapana, of the enter into the stream, then he practices the abiding in this state of bodhicitta, then the practices related to the bodhicitta, then the punya parinama, the giving all the merit to the for the sake of one general enlightenment of all. That means for the sake of enlightened mind, which shares all the merit with all beings. And after that, sharing merit with all beings, he then attains the Bodhisattva Bhumi. The first Bhumi is called Pramudita, the stage of rejoicing. Stage of rejoicing is also explained in Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra as the perfection of the Dana Paramita, of giving, because he has given everything for the sake of the beings. He has transferred all the merits for the sake of all beings, not just for his own sake. Then he practices all the other paramitas, the 10 paramitas to get to the complete Buddha knowledge. And these are connected with the 10 stages of the Bodhisattva path. When he has reached the 10th stage of the Bodhisattva path, he can go to the beginning. And the beginning is the ultimate reality. So, and this ultimate reality in us who are not yet the Buddhas, this ultimate reality in us is hidden by ignorance. Just like if we have a diamond or we have a precious stone and we mine it from the earth, it will be covered by impurity, but nevertheless, it does not lose the uh, pure nature of the jewel. Similarly, we beings, we all have this Buddha nature, which is covered by our ignorance. And as we go from end to the beginning, we then polish this diamond of our Buddha mind, Buddha nature from impurities until nothing rests but the pure diamond. The pure diamond, as we know, is a symbol of bodhicitta. The practice of the bodhisattva is, so to say, polishing the bodhicitta, the mind of perfect enlightenment, and we polish it first by determination, and then when we have realized the bodhicitta being the true our nature, then we just polish the diamond in the different stages of the practice until we come to our pure nature, which is, so to say, own to us. So we have 4 stages of enlightening process, which is called 视觉, and it is the stage of common man, the stage of seeming realization, dualistic realization, state of partial realization, when we have attained the bodhisattva bhumi, the bodhisattva ground. That means a non-dualistic realization. Non-dualistic realization is much more difficult than the realization of nirvana as opposed to samsara. We have to practice the perfections, and we have to fix our mind on one reality, contemplate one reality. That is why we need dialectics of one reality, dialectics of emptiness, dialectics of the suchness, which is a non-dualistic understanding of emptiness. So we come to the beginning, which is our own actually. So then the Panjue becomes Jiu Jinjie, the ultimate realization. When we have the original realization that we contemplate the purity which prevents us from committing acts based on the 3 unwholesome roots, then we are engaged in the enlightenment process on the base of non-enlightenment. This is wonderful aspects of the dependent origination. We cannot talk about enlightenment without experiencing non-enlightenment. In these 4 stages of the enlightening process, we, so to say, we are deepening our knowledge of non-enlightenment, and we don't abandon non-enlightenment in order to realize what our scripture is teaching, the samadhi of one mind, or samadhi of the seal of the great ocean, or the surangama samadhi. Lenyen Sanmei, many words for the samadhi in which we don't abandon ignorance, but we contemplate the being ourselves pure, we contemplate the impurities of beings with the great compassion. The arising of bodhicitta is based on the mind of great compassion. The Arahat has surely compassion, has surely Maitri, has surely love, but it is not the great love and great compassion. Great love and great compassion in this tradition belongs to those who give rise to the bodhicitta, to the thought of perfect enlightenment, which is innate in the minds of all beings. However evil they may be, they still do not abandon the thought of enlightenment. So, like Kshiti Garbha Sutra, Tizang Ting, and so on, the Buddha appears in all different hells, in all different uh, states of existence filled with suffering, in order to manifest the great wisdom and great compassion. And he manifests it by great skillful means. Skillful means is the seventh on the scale of realization, the seventh stage of practice of bodhicitta. That means by realizing the previous perfections, the six perfections, we then realize the perfections of the skillful means that in the seventh stage of realization, we are not anymore dependent on the signs of the objects. We are, so to say, going beyond the sign of the object, so that when we attain the eighth stage, the Achala Bhumi, Putung Ti, our mind does not move anymore. So this is, in this stage, we can then change the whatever signs or objects we may be aware of into the means of great compassion to lead other beings. This is indeed the very incredible state of realization, and Ashwagosha, the author of our treatise, so at least the Taishi Tasha believes, great scholar Taishi and meditator, that he has indeed, on the base of study of this treatise, he has indeed reached this very, very enlightened stage of unmovable mind. Now, this part of the book has described the process of realization, which is from end to the beginning. End is stage of the ordinary being who does not allow the three unwholesome roots of thinking and of action to prevail. And we go step by step to the ultimate realization, which is the state of Buddhahood. And the state of Buddhahood is based on the original enlightenment, Panjue. So, and in original enlightenment, so our scripture describes, we have the two forces which enables us to go up to the ultimate enlightenment. These two forces, they are, so to say, innate in the original enlightenment. And they will transform eventually our mind to the Buddha. Now our mind is still victim to the impurities, like when we discover diamond, it is surrounded by the different mine impurities. But when we scratch it, scratch it, scratch it, we come eventually to the real diamond. When we polish it, then it will have all the wonderful qualities. Similarly, by practicing these two forces innate in the original enlightenment, in the embryonic form, and these two forces, they are called the purity of wisdom and the incredible or unthinkable action or unthinkable acts. In the text, they are called zhe, jin, xiang, which means the aspect of the mind innate to the original enlightenment, to the Pengjue, which is the aspect of Xiang, we can translate as aspect, we can translate as object, we can translate also as a sign. So here maybe the aspect would be the most appropriate. So when we have, and we all beings, we have the original enlightenment, when we understand that our true nature is not different from the Buddha's nature, then we will have, our mind will have the aspect of purity, of wisdom, and the aspect of unconceivable or the unthinkable, pusayi, action, yeah, or function. Yeah means action, function, karma, many meanings. So we can translate as the aspect of pure wisdom and the aspect of unthinkable karma. Now the aspect of purity of wisdom and the aspect of unthinkable karma, they are based on, we don't have them because we are not the Buddhas. They will become pure only in the state of Buddha when we have cleaned completely the diamond of bodhicitta. They are the inseparable from true practice of the faith. True practice of the faith brings us to the realization of this pure wisdom, which is a wisdom of non-dualistic realization and of unthinkable actions. Without these two aspects, we will not realize our faith. When we have realized our faith, so even though we are not have direct experience of the nirvana, like the Shrotapana, like the stream enter, our faith has succeeded and we will never leave the bodhicitta. So we have the bodhicitta by determination, and we have the bodhicitta by realization of the faith. And due to this bodhicitta based on the realization of the faith, let me see the text, which is very important. I have made my own translation, so I use my own translation. So this purity of wisdom. First, we have purity of wisdom. Then we have the unthinkable functions. Unthinkable functions are based on the purity of wisdom, because we beings, we have innumerable actions. We have many, many millions, billions of actions hidden in our mind. So the actions of beings, they are unthinkable. But the Buddha, he can understand them in virtue of the wisdom of the great mirror. We will come to it. The process of enlightenment in this tradition, on the Yogacara tradition, is a process of realizing the four kinds of wisdom. The wisdom based on the universal mind, that is alaya, the wisdom based on the individualizing mind, which sees alaya as being the reality, because in this tradition everything is based on mind. And that is the individualizing wisdom called mana. The universal wisdom is based on alaya, is called the wisdom of the perfect mirror. Wisdom based on individualizing thought is the samatha jnana, the wisdom of sameness between the principle and its characteristics. Remember, at the beginning of the treatise, we had the veneration of the triple gem. The essence of the triple gem is a Buddha who has no obstacle, who is extant everywhere. And the characteristics of the Buddha is a Dharma. The true Buddha is a Dharma. And the Sangha is those who truly practice the Dharma to become the Buddha, which is the great compassion and wisdom without obstacle. And that is the great wisdom. Based on this great wisdom, we can reflect the sameness, that our Buddha nature and the phenomena, they become one. Then our differentiating consciousness, called in this tradition vijnana, that is the sixth consciousness, the mental consciousness, differentiating consciousness. Differentiating consciousness becomes when we become the Buddhas, the wisdom of beautiful, of wonderful observation, miao quan, miao quan zhi, the wisdom of wonderful observation. And then the five senses consciousnesses become cheng suo zuo, become the wisdom of accomplishing whatever we do. When we have these four kinds of wisdom, we become Buddhas. And in our text, they are presented as four kinds of mirror. We will come to it after discussing these two aspects of the original enlightenment growing into the ultimate enlightenment on the base of faith. So due to this aspect, the aspect of the unthinkable karma, unthinkable action, is based on this purity of wisdom. This is very important. Due to this purity of wisdom, we can accomplish, according to our text, the correct practice, and we can fulfill skillful means. And due to them, we can break the image of compound consciousness. Now, our consciousness, we have learned in this tradition, different from Xuanzang's tradition, alaya is a mixture. We have learned the mixture of the impermanent consciousness and the permanent consciousness. The permanent consciousness is in this tradition called suchness, Genru. The impermanent consciousness, Shen Mie Xin, and the permanent consciousness, Genru, they mix together, we have learned before, in what is called alaya. Alaya literally means the mind which dwells in the world. The mind which dwells in the world, that is us. We have the aspect of Buddha nature, which is permanent, which is suchness, and we have the aspect of the impermanent mind. This impermanent mind, as we have learned, it comes from the suchness. It comes from the suchness covered by our ignorance, and that suchness covered by our ignorance is called the womb of Tathagata, Tathagata Garbha, Rulai Zhang. So we are not Buddhas, but we have a Buddha nature in us in the form of the Rulai Zhang, of the womb of Tathagata, just like we are born from the womb of the mother. This body of the Dharma, which is the true Buddha, Dharma Kaya is a true Buddha. This is like a womb from which the Buddhahood is born. If we don't have this womb, we cannot be born as a Buddhas. This is the teachings of the Mahayana Sutras. And nowadays, now there is a question, but we will leave questions for later. So let us not hurry with questions. Let us have patience and first learn the theories, then we can contemplate by them, by asking questions. I myself, if I have learned anything, it is by asking questions. So this is very important aspect of learning. So patience, we will come to it. So now we have in ourselves this purity of wisdom, which does not belong to which is not evident to our covered diamond. Our covered diamond usually is not familiar with this purity of wisdom, but when we progress on our path, then it will be more and more revealed in these 4 stages of enlightenment we have talked about. In each and every stage, this purity of wisdom will be more and more revealed, more and more clear to us. So finally, due to it, this power of purity of wisdom is the power of Dharma. Which Dharma? The Dharmakaya. the Dharmakaya is the purity of Dharma. And this purity of Dharma is manifested in the world as Dharma. So by this power of Dharma, we get more and more close to correct practice, which fulfills the skillful means in order to get non-dual realization. We have to have skillful means. The first skillful means is, of course, bodhicitta. First by resolution, then by realizing the faith, and then by realizing the actual direct experience of the non-dualistic vision. And that is then a source of joy, which never leaves us. As Shantideva describes, it is a happiness which we just cannot describe, which is unthinkable. And we even don't understand how is it possible that such, such a realization is in us. Then due to this advancing on this practice of correct, advancing in correct practice and fulfilling the skillful means, then we can break this compound consciousness, says the text. Compound consciousness is alaya. It is the mind which dwells in the world. It dwells in the world because the Dharmakaya is in illusionary movement. This illusionary movement, we will learn, comes from the mind itself. From which mind? From the karmic aspect of the mind, yes, yang. We will come to it. When there is a karmic aspect of the mind, our mind moves. And when our mind moves, it rises due to the energy, as we, mind is like a flow of energy. It arises, it has duration, it has then impermanence when it comes to the point of no more having an impact from which put it into movement. And then it goes back. It goes back where? It goes back to the continuity of thought. This is the Santati Vijnana, the Xiangxu Xin, the continuity of mind. That's because we have this continuity of mind, we can remember, and in this continuity of mind, we are born. In this continuity of mind, we continue during our stages of life. And in this continuity of mind, we also die. So we have the Sandhi Bhavanga or Alaya, it is the same term, according to Mahayana. We have the Sandhi means connection. We have the connecting mind, bringing us from the previous existence to the present existence. Then we have continuity of mind, on which the mind arises due to karmic consciousness from this continuity and goes back to this continuity. It arises due to the impact of the karmic consciousness. When there is impact of the karmic consciousness, there is a subject and the object. And the mind then has continuity. This continuity will be there as long as we have not broken the what is called here compound consciousness. When we become like Ashwagosha in the like Mayin in the 8th stage of the Bodhisattvahood, in this Putung Ti, non-moving stage, then we have broken the continuity of the mind. So we can change the objects, so to say, according to our wish. This is a very high stage of realization. Then mind continuity is based, we will also come to it, on manas, on the individualizing consciousness. We will come to it in the next lecture. In this tradition, different from Xuanzang tradition, the manas means the karmic consciousness, the Tianfen, according to Xuanzang, the consciousness which is subject, which sees, the Xiangfen, the part of consciousness which is seen, that means the object. And then in this tradition, the consciousness based on differentiation, which is called Zhixiang, and then the Xiangxixiang, the continuity of consciousness. These 5 types of subtle consciousnesses in this tradition, they are called manas, individualizing consciousness. So this individualizing consciousness continuity will be broken. So we can become Buddhas. As long as this individualizing consciousness is not broken, we cannot become perfectly realized Buddhas. But the Arahat also, we will see, he has ability to break this individualizing consciousness, but he cannot realize that the that actually the movement of the mind, impermanence of the mind is not real. The impermanence of the mind, even for Arahat, is still real, because he wants to turn away from the world, and world is impermanence. But in this tradition, very important to understand, this impermanence is, and we can actually realize it, is due to the karmic aspect of the consciousness, which makes the seer and the seen different. So according to Lankavatara Sutra, which is a base in a way for our understanding of the Chan tradition and also connected to the sutra, but if Ashwagosha is really author, it must have been written much later. But the Lotus Sutra was probably written even before the time of Ashwagosha. Not the Lankavatara Sutra, but Lankavatara Sutra says, indeed, that the consciousness has 3 aspects, or mind has 3 aspects. The aspect, karmic aspect, the revealing aspect, which he calls Xian Xiang. Xian means to reveal, Xian Shi. And the true aspect, Zhen Xiang. True aspect is the Dharmakaya. Then the Dharmakaya, based on this Ye Xiang, the karmic aspect, becomes the revealing aspect, Xian Xiang. And this is what we understand as subject-object duality. But it actually, according to this tradition, even Arahat, unless he gives rise to great compassion and to bodhicitta, he is still not aware that this impermanent mind is nothing but the karmic aspect of the mind, which comes from the uh, mind itself. As we have seen in this tradition, the dependent origination is based on the Tathagata Garbha, on the womb of Tathagata. Why it is based on womb of Tathagata? Because we have learned, because our ignorance is only something which is opposed to, which is related to wisdom. And ignorance is, as a dependent origination says, ignorance is, because of ignorance, we move the mind, we combine the samskaras, we put together samskaras, fabricate samskaras, which is karma. And then we have the differentiating mind. Due to differentiating mind, we take it for granted that there is a true nama rupa, there is a true mind. That means nama, means mind and mental factors. And what the mind and mental factors perceive as object. Then there is because we have, due to this differentiation, we have the 6 inner sphere of perception and 6 outer spheres of perception. Then we have the contact, touch. When we have touch, we have the sensation. When we have sensation, if we don't understand sensation, then we have greed. When we have greed, we have grasping. When we have grasping, again, we give rise to karma. And then we are born again. According to even to the Theravada commentaries, but taken for granted in Mahayana, this happens from life to life. But it also happens in one thought process. The commentary of Vibhanga describes this 12 links of dependent origination, which usually explained as in terms of 3 lives. Past ignorance and past will formations give rise to our differentiating mind. On the base of differentiating mind is a result. The samskaras are the cause. Due to this, we go to the sensation. Sensation is in the middle of dependent origination. When we grasp for sensation, then we create a new karma. And when we create a new karma, we create a new birth. And the result will be the new process of distress, suffering. This is the traditional explanation of the dependent origination. In this tradition, it comes from the womb of Tathagata itself, because it is covered by ignorance. So it is put into movement by this karmic consciousness. When there is karmic consciousness, there is one who sees and one what is seen, and then there is continuity. This continuity can only be broken by this aspect of pure wisdom. If we don't have this aspect of pure wisdom in a very intensive form through the correct practice and skillful means, we will not break the fixed idea that our continuity is something real. It does not mean that it does not exist, but it exists on the base of illusionary mind. Illusionary mind is a moving mind, is a karmic mind. Now, the Arahat, he removes this karmic mind because he wants to remove discontinuity. But now, if we want to become the bodhisattvas, we break this continuity, but we do not remove it because we want to realize one mind. One mind is the mind of all beings. And mind of all beings is based on this uh, womb of Tathagata, which is a true mind. True mind moves, but it moves by the power of the karmic consciousness. And the karmic consciousness reveals the world to us as something real. It does not mean that it is not there, but it is not there as we understand it. This is the theory of the three levels of reality, which does not come clearly in this scripture. It is specially developed by Huisi, Zhiguan, Fangfa, Lun, the method of Shamatha and Vipassana in the Mahayana. Huisi is one of the founding patriarchs of the Tiantai tradition. He developed this idea of Tathagata Garbha dependent origination based on the three levels of reality. So because we believe in real continuity, so we have clinging. Because we have clinging, we create concepts for reality. We create names for reality, which we take for the reality itself. This is called the parikalpita. Parikalpita, pari means all around. Kalpita means fabricated. What we hold to is not the real reality. What we hold to is a fabricated reality based on the names, sentences, syllables. These are the means of our communication, due to which we live as social animals. And what we cling to is not the real reality. Dependent origination does not allow any self in persons, not even in the phenomena. But we contemplate our experience in terms of the parikalpita, the names, concepts. And through these names and concepts, we then contemplate the reality, which is the reality of dependent origination. It is called paratantra. Paratantra means that created by the other causes and conditions. When we take away the names, sentences, syllables from the experience in the world, which is dependent origination, then we get the perfect reality. The perfect reality has no self of person, which is emphasized in the practice of the disciples, and non-self of all phenomena, emphasized in the practice of bodhicitta, in the practice of the bodhisattvas. So this is very important to understand. So So when the mind continuity disappears, when the manas, the individualizing mind disappears, we will come to it hopefully next lesson. This three process of enlightenment is a practice from beginning, is a practice of three subtle aspects of mind and six gross aspects of mind. We will come to it. So when the mind continuity disappears, then Dharmakaya is revealed. The Dharmakaya is the synonym of suchness. It is the only reality. It is the reality of the Buddha, which is also the hidden reality in us beings. So, in other words, through this aspect of purity of wisdom, we abandon ignorance, which is the cause of a cycle of birth and death, which is distress, and the true nature of all phenomena, the suchness, is revealed. This aspect of impermanence and the aspect of the Dharmakaya is actually one reality, one mind, when we become the perfectly enlightened Buddhas, we don't especially pay attention to this aspect of impermanence. When you don't pay attention to any objects in particular, where is the mind? In our case, it is in the continuity. In the case of the Buddha, it is in the Dharmakaya, in the suchness. So when we remove ignorance, we don't need, according to the Yogacara tradition, we don't need any more attention to any particular aspect of reality. We just reflect reality as it is, inseparable from suchness. So the impermanent mind will not disturb us at all. We have broken the continuity of impermanent mind in us, so we just reflect it in beings as it is, inseparable from suchness. This is a very high ideal, but when we understand the Mahayana meditation, the Mahayana theory of meditation, these all actually present traditions of Buddhism in China and in Tibet, they more or less all based on this idea of realizing the Buddhahood by the vasana, by the power of permeation of mind through Dharma. And permeation of mind through Dharma is a permeation of mind through suchness. So that we come and we appear and go in suchness. The Buddha is the one who appears in suchness, goes in suchness. So this is the idea that we permeate our alaya, which is a mixed consciousness, through the power of Dharma, through the power of true reality. So, because we still have the karmic consciousness, so our power of Dharma is weak. When we understand the illusion of karmic consciousness, and our power of karma will grow, so that it can break the attachment to the continuity of consciousness. So according to the commentaries, when you read, so this means due to the pure wisdom, the true wisdom is the true cause, satya hetu. The true cause breaks the illusionary cause. The illusionary cause is the continuity of consciousness with which we identify as being our own, not product of suchness, causes and conditions, based on the womb of Tathagata, which is our true nature. So the suchness cannot actually leave suchness, but we believe that suchness of our individual consciousness is something separate from the suchness, which is the nature of Buddhahood, which is the Dharmakaya, which is the Dharma element, which is the true nature of things. This true nature of things can only be realized, it is a principle of Buddhism, by yatha bhuta jnana, the knowledge of things as they really are. And the knowledge of things as they really are in this tradition is the knowledge of suchness, only one reality. All the other realities, mundane reality, supramundane reality, reality of distress, cause of distress, reality of cessation, the cause of cessation, and so on and so on, eightfold noble paths, all realities, they are in this tradition actually one reality, the reality of suchness. And when we realize this reality of suchness, then we have access to what is called, in this tradition, the unthinkable functions aspect of the mind. So, in other words, all continuity of mind and all alaya-based images are ignorance. But their essence is always true. It is the true mind, Genshin. So this our ignorance cannot leave the true nature of the mind, because the mind is moved by the aspect of karmic consciousness, which is not true. It is not the true aspect of the mind. When we realize that it is an illusionary aspect of the mind, then we have the samadhi of one mind. We see this moving force of karma as something illusionary in ourselves, and we can also observe it as illusionary in all other beings. Then we become the fully enlightened Buddhas. But it is so-called revolution of the mind to pure awareness. Juan E, that means the transformation of the base of the mind. And base of the mind in the tradition of Xuanzang is alaya. In this tradition, base of the mind is the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature mix with the karmic aspect of the mind created reality of continuity of due to continuity we will learn there is a grasping. Because of grasping we grasp to the concepts which we create through our fabrication. When we create the concepts through fabrication, then we again engage in karma, and we are again victims of the resultant karma. The alaya consciousness is the resultant karma. And this resultant karma is based on this karmic aspect of the consciousness. So the author gives the example like a great ocean water is moved by wind. This is my translation. I think it's maybe a little different. To become waves, water and wind image is inseparable. When there is wind, the water image and the wind image is inseparable. They come together. Yet water has no nature of movement. When wind stops, movement disappears. But wetness of water is not affected. Similarly, the whole nature of beings is pure, but moved by wind of ignorance. Yet mind and ignorance both have no definite shape, are inseparable. Mind has no own nature of movement. So when we see the waves, the water has the illusionary nature of movement, but similarly, when our mind is moved by ignorance, which is manifesting as a karmic aspect of the mind, so the true nature of our mind does not change. This is a teaching of Lankavatara Sutra. This is a teaching of the Chan tradition, but also of other Chinese traditions, Huayan, Tiantai. They have the same idea. First, they have to be karmic consciousness, which comes. So, according to Tiantai tradition, we have to observe Se Yun, the four movements of the mind. First, there is no movement. But mind is in continuity because we are not the Buddhas. Then we have a desire. Then there is a movement of the mind. Then we have to observe this movement of the mind based on desire when our mind becomes the illusionary thinking. And when this illusionary thinking stops, then it goes back to the beginning, to the continuity of the mind. But this, but due to this movement, as Lankavatara Sutra explained, the nature of the mind does not change. When it moves, its nature still does not change. It remains the same nature, the suchness. Only the karmic aspect of the mind makes it changing. So this karmic aspect of the mind gives rise to the continuity aspect of the mind, and continuity aspect of the mind gives rise to the idea of real impermanence. This is a teaching of Lankavatara Sutra. And this is the same teaching here. So what we experience in this world is the alaya consciousness in which the permanent and impermanent are mixed, but the impermanent comes and goes, but the true nature of the mind never changes. It always becomes the same. So due to the karmic movement of the mind, which creates the illusion of true impermanence, there appear what we will study next time, the three subtle aspects of the mind and the six gross aspects of the mind, and they let us, not penetrating them as they let us dwell in the situation of distress. The situation of distress is actually illusionary. And this, what the bodhisattva arises at this stage of non-dual realization, which is called pramudita, the great joy. So he realizes this distress is illusionary. When you read for example, the Mahayana great Nirvana Sutra, so it comes to the idea you find in Vedanta, in Hindu philosophy. The true mind is permanence, bliss, self, and purity. In Buddhism, you have to start with their opposite, but finally you come here to the true nature of the mind, which does not change, but which we do not see as it is due to our identification with the impermanent mind. The impermanent mind, we have to be always aware, arises due to this karmic impact on the mind, which creates the illusion of true continuity. But my continuity is different from your continuity. Everybody has a different continuity because we all rely on the differentiating mind. And differentiating mind for each and every being is different, slightly different, or very, very different. So we come to the unthinkable function of aspect of the mind. And this aspect is able, I read my translation, is able to produce all kinds of superior, wonderful objects based on pure wisdom. And these objects, this is a pure land. This is the Sambhogakaya aspect. We have the Passion aspect, then the Dharmakaya aspect, then we have the Sambhogakaya aspect. Sambhogakaya aspect is the aspect of samadhi. Huh? Through the samadhi of one mind, we can create this pure land. These are these objects based on pure wisdom, which possess immeasurable virtues of images or objects, always present without interruption. This, for the practitioner of the Amitabha, this Amitabha land, Amitabha world is always there, and it represents the pure wisdom, the aspect of the pure wisdom based on samadhi. They are manifesting spontaneously in connection with the faculties of various beings, and they are thus benefited by them. So the beings are benefited by the images or objects arising from the pure wisdom, which is the essence of the mind. So this aspect explains how we, due to the pure wisdom, we return to the true aspect of the original enlightenment, which is not different from Buddhahood. So this aspect is the what, for example, the Quan Imposa manifests itself in different forms. The bodhisattvas manifest themselves in different forms in order to help the sentient beings. So, because the sentient beings' karma is unthinkable, so this aspect of pure wisdom is also unthinkable. When we have access to the pure wisdom, we have the aspects of to unthinkable activity of karma for the sake of sentient beings. So we can, like Quan Shui Imbosa, manifest as Pumen of the universal method of the Lotus Sutra explained, we can manifest in all kinds of distress this pure wisdom purifying the beings. Now we have almost the time, so we can say one nice story of the Avalokiteshvara. Avalokiteshvara, the Kwanse Imbosa, appears as a beautiful lady sometime in China, and she becomes the fascination of all males in that country, sometimes in the warring period maybe. And the beings, they are infatuated by the beauty of this miss of the world. And so she has many males who want to marry her, but she says, of course I will marry. I'm not married yet, but you have to memorize the Diamond Sutra. So everybody is enthusiastic, memorizing the Diamond Sutra, and she finds hundreds of suitors who memorize the Diamond Sutra. So then she said, I cannot marry hundreds of men. I can only marry those who can memorize the Lotus Sutra. Then they memorize, but it is very long. So only actually one succeeds, but by the time he has memorized the Lotus Sutra, he becomes a monk. No? It's a very nice story of the incredible means of the great uh, great functions of the pure wisdom. And according to the situation of the human beings and of all beings, one can bring them to the uh, purity of mind through unthinkable actions, unthinkable activities. So let us finish now. Now it is almost 4 o'clock, 5 minutes left, but there were some questions. We can start with them and continue next time. So please, who was the one who asked the first question? There was one question during the discourse, but I I did not bother to answer it because it would disturb the flow of my lecture. Now nobody is asking, so shall we finish here? Any question coming? Or we leave it for next time? So you have time to reflect. And next time we will learn on the base of understanding these two aspects. Then we have the four mirrors which reflect the uh, the true practice of turning our ignorance into awareness. The purity of awareness is the purity of contemplation of the suchness. But we will talk about these four mirrors later. You can consult the scripture. And then we will start with this process of enlightenment from we had from end to the beginning. Now we will do from beginning to the end. And beginning is precisely this karmic consciousness which moves the mind. But in this tradition, it moves the mind, but this movement is illusionary from the very beginning because it comes, as we have seen, from this womb of Tathagata, nowhere else. So let us then transfer merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. And next time we start by questions and we continue by four mirrors and three subtle and six gross aspects of the mind, which explain the process of how we became uh, involved in distress. So we had the process from the end to the beginning, how we became enlightened by starting to control our three roots of unwholesome karma. We practice three roots of wholesome karma, So our force of Dharma will permeate our mind, and so the mind then on the base of pure wisdom and on the base of unthinkable functions can transform our ignorance into wisdom. And so this is complementary to understanding the enlightenment from end to the beginning, but it will only become clear when we see the enlightenment process from beginning to the end, which is the present state of distress, which is actually illusionary in this condition, in this tradition. So we have the Buddha nature, and we, by our own ignorance, have separated ourselves from it. So this is a very inspiring aspect of the Buddhist realization. And it, of course, also influences our idea of the practice, how we practice, because if the ignorance is something to be uprooted, then we behave in a different way. If ignorance is illusionary, then we also tend to behave in a different way. The our samskaras, that means our will formations, they determine the way we understand our practice and the way we practice. So this is very fascinating aspect of Buddhism. Buddhism is not a dogma and cannot become a dogma. It does not mean that we Buddhists don't have this tendency to become dogmatic. But when we understand Buddhism, all is just skillful means, and when we understand the skillful means, we also understand that dogma has no place in Buddhism. Okay, so let us transfer merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we meet, what is the next day? Today is 15th of, right? What will be the next date?
23rd. 23rd?
23rd. Huh?
Yes.
23rd. Yeah, my she is helping me to arrange, but I think it is okay. Huh? So 23rd and 2:30, unless there is something very special happening, and I don't think so. So we make it fixed. If there is something, I can't see, where is Monica? Huh? Let me just wait for a minute. I ask Monica, she has a calendar of actions here. Now, sometimes anyway, let us transfer the merit. I say, as usual, first in Chinese, the short version. 愿以此功德，不计于前，我等一众生皆共成佛道。May the merit of today's practice spread to all beings so that we attain the state of perfect realization. Om Mito. 23rd, nothing. Huh? Okay, so 23rd, my friend is telling me there is nothing special, so we fix 2:30 as usual, and we start with questions. So please prepare some questions which can by all of us. And for the time being, we finish here. Now it will be already late in the evening in Indonesia. So let us stop here. Okay.
Thank you,
Om Mitra
Pastor.
Bhava.
Thank you, Pastor.
Mitra
Take care.
Bhava.
Love